Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me tell you about the only supplements that I use. For nearly 10 years, Bare Performance Nutrition has been on a mission to educate, inspire, and improve the performance of modern-day athletes, adventurers, and warriors through training, nutrition, and supplementation. With effective formulas that work as hard as you do and are third-party tested for prohibited substances, you can get results and reach your full potential with Bare Performance Nutrition. Head to the link in the show notes to go to the website to help me out and to help you out so that we can go one more together. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 36. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very, very, very special guest in the house, Nick Cassano. Nick, what is up, man?
How you doing, Joe? I'm stoked, man.
Dude, I'm absolutely pumped. This has been a little while in the making, and
Absolutely.
And it's going to be a great conversation. I just have to say on air, I'm a huge fan of everything that you do. And I have to ask, how did the Italian shtick all start for you?
Oh, dude. First of all, I appreciate it very much. The Italian shtick started from day one. I mean, I grew up in a very old school Italian household. My dad is Italian. My mom's Italian, both sides of the family. My grandmother, we call it Nonna. Are you Italian?
I am.
Rinaldi, yeah, I would think. Yeah. So, I had Nonna downstairs. And I've always been the funny guy. So I've been easy to pick up on like certain, like gestures or mannerisms and stuff like that, situations. I just being around it and just, having a passion for making people laugh kind of just went like hand in hand. And I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. This ain't nothing new to me. Understand? So yeah, dude, I've been doing it for a while.
It's amazing how fluid, I don't know if I want to say your personalities are, or would you consider them different personalities? How do you categorize them?
I haven't thought of it like that. I will say though, when it comes to recording, I totally become the character.
Oh yeah.
But not on purpose. Not because I think it's called method acting. I don't do that on purpose. It's just like in order to get as organic and as like spot on as the character, I sort of like become the character, yes. But I wouldn't say personalities, maybe. I mean, that's a good way to put it. I might have to start saying that now because you put me on.
Yeah, man. Now, question, you know who Sebastian Maniscalco is?
Absolutely.
100%. I feel like I'm going to call this now, and I don't know if this is planned in your future. I can see you on a stage somewhere as the next Sebastian Maniscalco. Yeah.
I just got chills. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you saying that. People, my girlfriend too, including, but people have said that like it always comes up like the stand-up comedy, like, are you ever going to get into stand-up comedy? And I don't know, man. Like I've always done it. Like I've always not actually done it, but like fantasized about it. But it hasn't really been at the forefront of my mind. I sort of fell in love with the business aspect of this whole thing. But when the timing is right and when the stars align, we'll see what happens, dude. I would love to. I'm definitely going to try it at some point.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sebastian, if you're listening to this podcast episode, reach out to Nick, all right? But, Nick, I kind of breezed over probably a lot of who you are. And if you want, just kind of give the audience a little bit of a background about who Nick Cassano is outside of the social media personality.
For sure. So what's up, everyone? My name is Nick Cassano. I'm 21. I just graduated college. I went to college for 4 years. I did my 4 years, and I was gone like the wind. I majored in marketing. So I guess that means I had a bachelor's degree in marketing. So much for that college education. But a little bit about me. I love to love. Like, I love to love, man. Like, I love making people laugh. I love seeing people smile. I love doing fun shit. I love also at the same time, like, doing like my own, like getting my own time to myself. I love being around people. I love being around good energy. I always preach being the energy you wish to attract. I'm like a phase guy though. Like, I get into phases. And when I get into these phases, Joe, I'm like, you might as well, like, for example, when I was in high school, I got obsessed with boxing. I was like, I saw the movie Creed and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get in the boxing gym. I dropped from 175 pounds down to 150. I was going to the gym three times a day. I was like shadow boxing in the mirror, looking up YouTube videos. And right now that phase is golf, so I'm heavy into golf. But fitness and challenging myself and learning to love the process is a huge part of who I am. No matter what it is, I love, not only do I love to love, but I love to work. Like, I love to put the time in. I love to be consistent. I love the challenge of doing something hard physically, mentally. I'm all about it, dude. Like, I love it.
Where did that come from for you? Were you always like that?
Yeah. It came with the sport of baseball. So I played baseball my whole life. And my freshman year of high school, I was 188 pounds, 5'3". In layman's terms, I was a little meatball. Okay. And so I'll never forget. I tried out for the JV team. I made the JV team, and the coach is basically like, listen, dude, you got to clean it up. You want to play this game at the next level, you got to get in shape. And we need to see something different next year. So conveniently, my uncle was coming back. He was a teacher over in Kosovo, and he was coming back over, my aunt and uncle, and he was a big runner. And I was like, listen, Fernando, by the way, Fernando, not blood related. Fernando ain't Italian, but I said, listen, Fern, I need to get in the gym. And I knew that he was active, and I never really had anybody in my family who was like majorly active. And he was like, all right, sounds good. But I'm letting you know now, whatever I say goes. I don't want you to question me. I don't want you to do anything. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. Ooh. So he's like, so the night before we go to the gym, he texts me. He's like, all right, I'm going to pick you up at 5:30 tomorrow. I said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow night. He goes, what? I was like, I'll see you tomorrow night. He's like, no, 5:30 a.m., dude. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so long story short, that whole summer was just like a constant, like getting kicked in the chest, dude, like knocked down. I mean, there were some struggles, right? And I'll never forget when I first saw like a vein in my shoulder.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like this is real. Like I put in the work and I'm seeing the results. And once I saw the results, I got bit by the bug. And everything I did, no matter whether it was fitness, no matter whether it was baseball, no matter it was anything in life, I became addicted to the process. So it all started with fitness. However, it's translated to everything else I do in life. And not only that, but baseball also taught me how to fail. And I mean, baseball, that was the first thing I ever loved. I say it all the time. And the reason I loved it was because I knew that I would never be perfect at it. And I knew that no matter how much work I put in, I could always do more. And it was the constant chase of being great at the sport that I fell in love with. And that has now, since playing, taught me most of what I know about a work ethic besides my father. But that was a little long of an answer, but I hope I answered it correctly.
Dude, it was beautiful. I have so much I want to ask about. And
yeah,
at the expense of going off course of the usual structure of the podcast, I'm going to ask this question. So baseball is one of those sports where you could fail 7 times out of 10 at the plate and be great. Like that's awesome, right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So baseball taught you how to fail, right?
Correct.
What does that look like for you in everyday life now? Because obviously on social media, in school, which you just graduated, congratulations, and all the other stuff that you do, what does failure look like in your life right now?
Great question. I think I think I failed so much that I don't even bat an eye at it anymore.
Yeah.
And there's been and it's not only because of the baseball field, it's also, making mistakes and, not being on time, forgetting to write an email, forgetting to follow up, forgetting that it's my mom's birthday. It's little things like that where I think I've sort of calloused my brain to when failure happens, I don't even I'm just where's the solution? How can I make it up? So now, failure could be a bunch of things like in business. I mean, you fail all the time. There have been times where, I've had an idea or I've been so excited about an idea and I'll bring it to social media and it's just like, dude, what can I curse on this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What the fuck is this? You know what I mean? I'll keep the cursing to a minimum, but yeah, failure in everyday life now could be as little as, failure could be as little as planning my day so bad that I have to work out at 9 p.m. Or failure could be, I have this idea that I think is going to do great. Let's see how it hits. Oh my God, it failed miserably. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, failure is awesome. Failure is great.
Failure's the best. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the first question of this podcast, and I'm sure we're going to get back to the topic we were just on, but sure. The question's a pretty simple one. And it's just, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle in your life? And so really a circumstance that you didn't have a choice in the matter. It happened to you.
Yeah. Great question. I think it's a great question because there's a lot. The hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, there's two.
Okay.
Both not really my choice. The first one would definitely be my godmother suffered from lung cancer. And to watch that whole process was gut-wrenching. Cancer is like war. And without going into too much detail, it taught me, I feel like I became much more of a man in 18 months than the 20 years I was on earth. But that was definitely hard. But to that point, being that you don't have control over the situation, what you do have control over is your response. And, unfortunately she lost her battle, but, now what can we control? We can control how she can still be present in our lives. And I always, like I said, I've always been one to, I love to love. And so did she. And, we have the Nick Cassano 5K that's coming up, which is going to be a 5K race, to raise money for lung cancer and a few other things. But that was definitely really tough, to say the least. But the other thing too is this. I mean, managing social media and being a full-time student, dude, that is a roller coaster. Let me tell you. And some people would say, yeah, you have the choice, whether or not you want to do it or not. But honestly, it's much bigger. And what I've noticed is it's things like this are much bigger than you. We all have a gift, all of us. I don't care who you are. We all have something to bring to the table. And I've found recently that my gift is to be able to make people laugh. I mean, people would always tell me when I was younger, but in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to the MLB. What are you talking about? Yeah, cool. I like making people laugh, but baseball. But now that I'm not playing, it's been this gradual process of learning that my gift is the ability to make people laugh. And laughter is so important for multiple reasons because, when you laugh, right, you don't think about anything. You just, it's a natural, reaction of a smile and feeling good. When you let out a laugh, you have no worries, you have no sadness, you have nothing, but you're laughing. And that's so powerful. And I haven't really understood how powerful it was until I've received like messages from people and stuff like that and doing this full time. So I don't really have the choice. I love what I'm doing. Well, don't get me wrong. But, it's not just you do this when you want to. No, motherfucker. You do this every day. And putting school on top of it, and anything of the sort. I mean, I was taking 18 credits first semester, 16 the next semester. Like, it's tough, man. It's tough.
All right. I've got some thoughts, man. So, I mean, you gave two really, really hard things, and I don't even know where I'm going to start, but I'm going to talk for a minute and then we'll see what your thoughts are.
Hey, do you, man?
You said that your aunt lost the battle to cancer. And I understand what you mean by that. But at the same time, it's been said that to live on in the hearts of those you leave behind is not to die.
Amen.
And the way we fight in everyday life, whether it's against cancer, whether it's just to get up and do our absolute best when things are tough, that affects other people because it's bigger than us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And on top of that, what you do, making people laugh, making people smile, everybody's struggling with something. And a lot of times we can't see that on the surface. And like,
for sure.
I know I've had those days. I'm sure you've had those days. I'm sure everybody's had those days where nothing's going right. Nothing feels light. Nothing feels happy. And like the smallest act of kindness, it could be someone making you smile. It could be someone holding a door. It could be someone sending a nice message. Absolutely it's on the brink of bringing you to tears because you're just in that place.
Dude, 100%. Absolutely. I could not agree more. And it's like always the weirdest things, right? Like it's always like you said, someone holding the door or someone just being like, thank you. Or like you like going to get something at the supermarket and like the cashier's like sweet to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the thing is, you just never know, right? People listening to this podcast know that my first year of graduate school was a dark season for me. And on the outside, I looked fine. I was the kid in front of class, getting straight A's, raising my hand, doing the thing. But on the inside, I couldn't put a smile on my own face on the inside.
Absolutely.
And, other people being there for me as friends, even though they didn't know I was hurting, made all the difference. Then on top of that, what you said about entrepreneurship, doing your own thing, you can't take a day off. I mean, there's right. Every single day you have to wake up, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to assess your weaknesses. You have to try, you have to fail, you have to learn, grow, and adapt. And it's exhausting, but it's also amazing.
Dude, hit it right on the head.
What's your favorite part of entrepreneurship?
This, being able to share. There's two things I genuinely love about entrepreneurship. The first is truly living a fulfilled life. And, entrepreneurship, and I say this all the time, I actually wrote a paper on this. I believe that entrepreneurship actually teaches you how to be a better human being. I think that all the successful entrepreneurs that I've come in contact with, including yourself, are great people, absolutely great people. And I'm talking like the self-made ones, the ones that started from the ground up. That is, to me, one of the greatest assets of what being an entrepreneur has to offer. And the other thing too is to find people that share the same passion for living, waking up every day and just making a real purpose for your life, and to come in contact with like-minded people like that. To me, I mean, just absolutely gets me juiced, man. Like I don't feel any more present ever, except for when, and I'm all about being present. Like I love like present, I preach be present, and I feel the most present when I'm surrounded by people such as yourself and others that I've met who have that energy of being an entrepreneur. And it's a very distinct energy, if you'll notice, Joe.
Oh yeah.
Like you could really point it out. Like you'll see it, you know what I mean? And you'll sniff it out if it ain't real. That's a huge component of of what being an entrepreneur is what I love about being an entrepreneur. But honestly, bottom line is the ability to be better as a human being, because you as an entrepreneur, you know what it feels like to be down here, and eventually you'll understand what it feels like to be up here. But if you maintain this perspective, you gain this new empathy for people and this new compassion for people that, just overall fulfills you kind of in a selfish way, but also like makes you want to help, like makes you want to, like, I want help. You know what I mean? Like, that's the best way to put it. But yeah, for sure.
The first time I learned about somebody's experience in entrepreneurship was on my other podcast, which I co-host. This was about 2 years ago. I was maybe considering leaving my job at that point. And this guy, Jason, was on our podcast, and he described entrepreneurship as some days you get up and you're walking down the middle of a street in New York City with your head held high, confident as anything. And then the next day or the next minute, you get run over by a bus.
Yeah.
And then you just have to get back up and keep walking.
Keep walking.
And I was like, that sounds terrible, but it also sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And recently I came across this quote, which I think will resonate with you. It's by Alexis Carrel. And they said, man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor. And I was like, man.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it comes back to fitness, right? Because you think about going into the gym, doing hard things, working against resistance, struggling. And that's the only way you get strength. That's the only way you get better. Yep. And to me, entrepreneurship is kind of just like personal growth wrapped up in business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I totally agree. And you'll notice, like, when you come across successful entrepreneurs, 9 times out of 10, they're in great shape.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe 8 times out of 10, but most of the time, other aspects of their life are in check. That's a great analogy. And it's so relevant, not only in the world of fitness, but in life as well. Like, there are countless times where, you're reinventing yourself and you're the sculptor. And sometimes, to be brutally honest, like, sometimes people come over to the sculpture and they take a sledgehammer and knock it down. So, then you got to pick up the pieces and glue it all back together. So yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah, I'm glad it resonates. Now, I think business could probably qualify as your answer to this next question, but I'm asking it anyway. And maybe we just look within your business experience. But the question is, what is the hardest thing that you've ever done on purpose? And why have you done that thing? So it could either be something within business or just something else in life that you've pursued that's been hard that you've chosen on purpose.
Great question, man. And I reviewed the questions before I got on here, but you asking them,
it's different.
Yeah. Like, I hate the fact that I'm going to answer like the same thing again, like that I purposely chose to turn these videos into a business. And that decision led to the most uncomfortable, consistent discomfort. I'm talking consistent discomfort. Every morning I woke up with a pit in my stomach because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Right. Like, and I was on the BPN podcast, and I described it as like jumping into a pool and not knowing how to swim. And that's how I felt every single day. And yeah, have I done crazy physical things? Absolutely. I'm nuts. Like, I've done it. I've done it all. I've done, I like whatever. I've been around the block when it comes to physical feats. Those are temporary. Those end at a certain point. This does not end. Now, obviously, I feel like I'm treading water. Like, I've been in the space long enough to not wake up and feel uncomfortable. Not saying I am comfortable, but like, I'm talking you. I think you can relate. I'm talking that, like, just utter, what the fuck is going on? And it was every day. Turning this into a business is by far the hardest thing I've purposely done. However, the most rewarding thing I will ever do. And I'm not talking monetarily. I'm not talking, you know, anything other than the fact that I'm able to express my passions and to fulfill my purpose and to provide good in the world through laughter. Like that's great. That's all it is. Because, you know, like if you love what you do, or if you pursue what you love to do, not only will you not work a day in your life, but the money's going to find you. It's just one of them weird things. Like the money's just going to be like, where's you at? You know?
Let me ask you this, because I think for me, I was very strategic and intentional, not to say you weren't, but in building up to the point where I was going to leave my full-time job. I had this plan in place. And for you, at least from what I know about you, it was almost like you did this thing, right? You posted this video, and then all of a sudden there was this shift in your mind, maybe, where you said, oh my goodness, there's potential here. Right. Tell us about that.
So, you know, it wasn't, I always did the videos for fun. Like I always did the videos because I purely enjoyed them. Like, I think I'm hysterical, like not even in a like I'm telling you in the most humble way possible. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I genuinely laugh at all my videos. I really do. I sit there and I mean, in the other room, you could hear me like cackling like a jerk. And I always did them because I enjoyed to make them, and people found them funny. And my dad would be the one to push me and say, Nick, you know, we should turn this into a business. We got an opportunity here. And I was like, you know, I felt weird in my mind to, you know, make money from doing something like this. And that was a very young-minded thing to do. But I'll never forget, I got signed up with Cameo. And I'm sure you've heard this story, but I got signed up with Cameo. And I started at $6, and, you know, I started doing it just so I could buy myself a bagel and coffee in the morning. Like, seriously, I would wake up, I'd do like 3 or 4 cameos, I'd be like sick. I go get breakfast, not even have to worry about it. It's paying for itself. And I couldn't keep up with the demand. So I would raise my price and raise my price. My price got to around $125. It still is that right now. And I remember looking at a check in my bank account, around $4,000. And in that moment, I was like, that's it. Bang. And there we go. Good snap. I was like, bang. Like, I'm turning this into a business. I have no idea what that means, but I'm going to take my ego, I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm just going to be a student. I'm going to absorb as much as I can from everybody. I'm going to listen to whatever my dad says. And again, that's a hard thing to do, because your dad also tells you to go take out the garbage, to make your bed, all that. And while that was a hard adjustment in the beginning, again, I made the conscious decision to go all in. Mm-hmm. And like I told you before, I'm a phases guy. This isn't a phase, but it's that same mindset of burning the ships at the beach. We're not going back. We're never going back. And, you know, I have to give a quick thank you to my pops. I don't know if he'll end up watching this or not, but I would be lost without that man. And, you know, I have so much respect for him, for a multitude of reasons, but a part of what's kept me going is the respect that I have for what he's built, because my dad would wake up every morning and go to work, no matter what day it was, no matter the sun was shining, no matter what was hanging over his head, nothing. He got up, he did what he had to do. He came home. And when he got home after having a hard day, he would love the shit out of his kids. And out of that respect, I will never do anything to tarnish that. And that also comes with my work ethic, my discipline. It's all relative in order to maintain that respect. Yes, like how I am in public and how I carry myself is one thing, but it's also what people don't see. So that was a little bit of a spiel, but it's the truth.
It's cool, man. I mean, I think a lot of times in life, we need people to believe in us before we fully believe in ourselves. And
absolutely.
And I feel bad when people are surrounded by other people who don't lift them up. And it's very clear that we all have the ability, especially now more than ever with social media, to build our circle, right?
Yeah.
If you want to follow good people, right, you can spend time every day with you, Nick Bear,
Yeah.
anybody else out there, right? Just by clicking the follow button on social
Right.
media. And also, we need to be able to believe in other people so that they can believe in themselves. I mean, tell me a little bit about the role belief has played maybe in your journey. I mean, have other people poured into you like your father has? Obviously, he's the person that comes to mind first, but who else is supporting you?
My mother, my mom just blindly support. My mom thinks I'm Brad Pitt, man. Like my mom, I mean, there'll be times I make a video, I show my mom and she laughs in the back of my head. I'm like, you don't think that's funny. But no, in all seriousness, I'm very blessed, man. And I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm self-made, because I got people around me that are just so good to me and that believe in me. But at that same token, I also believe in myself. And that doesn't mean that, I'm cocky, or that doesn't mean someone who believes themselves is cocky. You need to believe in yourself, because it don't matter what people say. If you don't believe it, it ain't going to happen. And, while in your low moments, the people around you will be there for you to help lift you back up, it's up to you, man, to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm capable of doing this. And no one's going to do it better than me. Nobody. And that's, again, has nothing to do with who you think you are, but it has everything to do with just believing in what you're capable of. And again, I'm extremely blessed in multiple areas, but that I have people around me who love me for me and who always are rooting for me.
Yeah.
But again, you need to root for yourself as well.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
With the presence that you have on social media, I would imagine that you have the opposite of what we just talked about, where people are reaching out, maybe not, I don't even know what you get, but I'm sure some of it's got to be negative.
Yeah, I got some.
Does that get through the cracks and get into your heart, or does that just stay on the screen? Yeah.
No. It used to, for sure. And yeah, like I'm not gonna sit up here on this podcast and be like, I'm bulletproof. You can't. Hell no, dude. Like, absolutely, there have been times where messages have rubbed me the wrong way, and comments have rubbed me the wrong way. But at the same rate, it used to bother me much more. Now I don't spend time worrying about that, because time is our most valuable asset. And at that same token, I've seen a ton of growth internally with myself this past journey, these past 18 months. And I'm at a point now to where, I'm doing what I love to do. And when you're comfortable with who you are, and when you're comfortable with what you're doing, and you love the life you live, it's much harder to get through. Okay. And when I say get through, it's not like I'm like, fuck, like I'm done for the rest of the day. It's more, when I say get through, I describe, like, when I respond back, I'm like, damn, they got me. You know what I mean? And like, it's always like love, like I'll respond with love. And like the flip is always like, oh, I didn't think you would respond or whatever. But when I say it gets to me, it's when I respond. Mm-hmm. But like I was just saying, you reach a point, and I'm sure if you're not there already, you will be at some point, because when you make the switch, right? Mm-hmm. When you make that switch of I'm not working anymore, I'm going all in on this. A lot of people talk, mm-hmm. A lot of them, and that's hard. And sometimes it may be people that you love dearly, and it comes down with, like we were saying before, believing in you, and at the same time pursuing what you love to do. No one should be able to tell you what you should and shouldn't pursue. If you love to do it, then do it, because this isn't a dress rehearsal. You have one life, dude.
I've got two quotes now. I'll spare you if you've heard them, but do you know
No.
the graveyard quote by Les Brown?
Yes. The deathbed one.
So maybe it's a little bit different, but essentially he says, the graveyard is the richest place on earth because it's here that all the books that were never written, the songs that were never sung, right?
Yes.
So, right, exactly. Like we get to do this once. So
Yes.
why live the life that we think other people think we should live?
100%.
Let's just live the life we're meant to live.
100%.
And then the Theodore Roosevelt "Man in the Arena" quote. Do you know that one?
Say it.
Oh, it's long, man, but I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read the whole thing. All right. So I've read this on the podcast before, so bear with me if you heard this before.
No.
So it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, man.
Dude, that's great. I need you to send me that when after this is over.
I've got it up on my wall over here. Yeah, I will send you the quote. Absolutely.
Oh, that is fantastic.
But right, it couldn't be more true, right? It's
yeah, absolutely.
It's the man in the arena, right?
100%. And it's with anything. It's and I've said this too, like like 9 times out of 10, it's fear, right? Like 9 times out of 10, people are afraid of what other people are going to say and what other people may think. But when you go out and you put yourself out there and you try, you are doing what 99% of people are not willing to do. At the end of the day, it could fail miserably. Absolutely blow up in your face. But you know what, Joe? When you go to bed at night and you look yourself in the mirror, you could say, you know what? I did something that 99% of people will never do, and that's try. And I'm happy that I tried because you know what? I'm going to try tomorrow, and I'm going to keep trying. And eventually things are going to work. And that quote is just so brilliant in so many different ways because it is so true. The ones that are going to throw stones are never the ones that are doing, ever.
Yep.
They're never the ones that are doing more. And it takes a special person to sit in the fire and be willing to get burned because they know at some point that fire is going to go out. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. That thing, I might get that as a poster. That's fantastic.
Let's say we just get like a back tattoo, right? Like the whole thing could probably fit.
I can't. I promised my dad I want to get any more tattoos. That's awesome, dude.
Cool, man. I'm glad you liked it. Now, I want to ask a question I haven't asked anybody else before on the podcast, but
let's go.
I think it's an important one. So on social media, people see your successes and you're also a very real person. And I think people can also get a feel for just who you are as a person as a whole. But my question is, yeah, of course, man. What is one thing that people might assume is very easy for you, but is actually really hard that you have to really work hard at?
Wow. I mean, that is a great question. I think people are quick to assume that what goes into running a social media account is, if that makes sense. I think people sometimes just think that, you just post because all you're seeing is the video posted. You know what I mean? I could have recorded that video 3 days ago because I have 5 or 6 other videos I got to get done today. I just think that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that I think people don't take into consideration, rightfully so. Yeah. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person or anything like that. They just don't know. And I think that people assume that the finished product is very easy to get to. And while the recording is the fun part, it's everything before the recording that is the hard part. You know, whether that's coming up with the idea, whether that's, you know, if you're doing something for a brand, you know, like getting the marketing aspect right, getting the feel for the video right, making sure that the setting is correct, making sure that the way people see it, like, you know, making sure that when you say a certain thing, like, could I have tweaked that? Could it have sounded better? Like, there's just a lot of different things that go in. While it's fun, it's not easy. And I think the whole, you know, the whole thing is what people don't really know. Therefore, they could just say that it's easy. But at the end of the day, what goes on behind the phone is the hard part.
So,
for sure.
so you're clearly not just whipping out the phone and, you know, talking to the camera for 5 minutes and then just clicking the post button. So let's set the record straight. So let's say you got a video, right? It's maybe, let's say 3 personalities, 3 characters, and it's a 15, 20, 30-second video. Let's say a 30-second video.
Yeah.
What goes into that? Like, take me through, like, where do you get the ideas?
Yeah,
How long does it take? Yeah, go for it.
We're going to start on the toilet. Right? I'll be honest. We're gonna start on the crapper, man, and I'll get an idea. Okay.
Where do they come from? Where do the ideas come from?
Dude, I don't know. No. Like honest to you, Joe. Like, yeah, there's things that'll happen, you know, that in my day to day where I'm like, oh, that'd be funny, or like something will just come to me. But good majority of my ideas, it's the weirdest thing, just show up in my head.
Huh.
Like all of them. It's wild. Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is there. You're on the toilet.
I'm on the toilet. I just got the idea, right? Next thing I do, so I don't forget it, I'll write it down in my notes. Okay. Then immediately after, or not immediately after, when it comes time to record said idea that I got on the shitter, I then get into it. It's very hard to describe, but I'm going to do my best. I get into a headspace where I take myself out of the situation and envision the video before I record it.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Like, I see it happen, right? And I'm not even trying to be like a weirdo. Like, this is just, I'm trying to explain it. So I see the finished product, what it's going to look like. Then I'll just keep it marinated in my head. While this is going on, then I'll go into my room and I'll pick out, like, okay, so we got three characters, 3 outfits. Let's say we got Nono, Pasquale, and myself, right? So now I'm picking out the orange hat, the glasses, a guinea tee, white T-shirt, and then whatever I'm going to wear. I'll go to the location of where I'm going to film it. Still with that same, what is this going to look like? I'm envisioning it. I'm picturing it. And then I'll just, no script, no nothing. I'll just, like, record the idea. Like, record what I've already envisioned in my head.
Now quick question.
Absolutely.
Are you recording each character in their entirety all at once? Okay. So you're flip-flopping.
Sometimes I am.
Okay.
Sometimes I am. When it's not that, like, intricate, but 95% of the time, I'm recording 1 second here, changing my shirt, putting the shirt on, going over here, recording a second here, taking that. Bro, my neighbors probably think there's something wrong with me. Honest to God. There have been times where they've literally been out having coffee on the porch and I'm screaming, "Oh, go fuck yourself," to my phone. Okay? Like, I'm like this. Oh, is that so? You know what I mean? And then I'll record a piece and then I'll get another thing of clothes and I'm just shuffling back and forth. And then in the midst of all that, like, if I don't think, it's a hard thing to describe, like, what something that I want to be funny, you know, there's something to be said about saying something funny the right way with the right tone. And I don't know if that's even true. I don't know if there's a term for that, but in my brain, I'm like, this would sound funnier if I said it this way, or if I delivered it with a little more, you know what I mean? So then, like, if I mess up a line, you know, I'll re-record. Like, there have been times where, like, a 2-second reaction has taken me 15 to 20 minutes. And I'll keep doing it and whatever. So now the video's done. The fun part's over, but I'm also, like, relieved because I'm happy with the product. Then I'll sit down and I'll edit it on my phone. I'll just, like, cut, like, clips here and there. And there's a couple things I do that I'm not going to share because,
Yep.
they're the secrets that just add a little bit more flair to the video. And then that's it, man. And then do one of these, you post it and see what happens.
So let's just say theoretically, you were on the toilet in the morning, you
Yeah.
got the idea, you wrote it down, you mapped it out in your brain, and you went right out and filmed it. You sat right down and edited that video. On
Yeah.
average, how long is that start to finish process? I know it varies, but on average.
Hour and a half.
It's wild.
But then some days it could literally be 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But if I were to do the whole thing, yeah, I'd say an hour to an hour and a half. But again, like that's the fun part. Like the rest of the day, I'm on my computer. I'm talking to this person. I'm talking to that person, and it just never ends. It's like a constant. I feel like I work all the time and I could just be sitting down and just like thinking of ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all fun, but yeah, that process in itself takes about an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It hasn't really gone more than that. Yeah, I'd say an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's a good amount of time, especially when you consider you're spending 90 minutes in production for a 20-30-second video, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like those videos are probably 40. I mean, now we're just being fucking intricate here. Now it doesn't really matter. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, so to do that every day and just at the frequency that you're doing it requires a lot of endurance. And so the next question is simple. What does the word endurance mean to you?
Yeah. Endurance. I mean, endurance can mean so many things, man. Like endurance is just so like, yes, endurance is how long can you hold the 130 beat per minute heart rate over this amount of miles, for sure. That's endurance, man. But endurance is also being able to sustain a certain amount of work ethic over a long period of time. And I think that to me would be the most relatable way to describe endurance because, I used to be the guy who would work like an absolute dog.
Yeah.
Now, this was before social media. I'm talking fitness wise. I'm talking, everything, right? Baseball. But I've learned that you can't have much endurance doing that. And I think now I have a lot more endurance because I'm actually doing less in a day, but more over time. And that's where I think that's how endurance correlates to me is I used to be a sprinter and right now I'm running big marathons. I'm running ultra marathons. And that doesn't mean, you don't get up and work your ass off, but it also means you get up, you work your ass off and then, you go to bed and then you wake up the next day and do it all over again. Like I think endurance in retrospect to myself, that's what I would say. I think endurance to me means to be able to have a work ethic and sustain that work ethic over a long period of time. Don't be a sprinter.
You know, it's funny. I came across a quote recently and I can't find it. I was just looking, but the person basically claimed that the way we run marathons is not even endurance because you think about someone getting to the end of a marathon, right? And they gave their all to get to the end of that marathon. And when you think about life, like life is endurance, right? That's long,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
But your point about sustainability and just picking a pace that's sustainable, it's the tortoise and the hare, right? You've heard that, right?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're the tortoise. And that's
100%.
Yeah, little by little becomes a lot. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Amen. And I say that all the time, like it's all relative, like everything we're saying. Like I say, if you were to build a house and you were to build that house brick by brick,
mm-hmm.
it would take you a while to build that house, but guess what? That house ain't falling. I don't care what hurricane you throw at that house. That house ain't going nowhere because you know what you're going to do? You're going to take your time. You're going to take that one brick. You're going to place it perfect. You're going to spackle it. You're going to get the cement right just as it needs to be. And then tomorrow you're going to do the same thing again. And that house over a long period of time is going to be built so intricately and with such great care and passion that ain't nothing breaking that house down. I don't care if the big bad wolf and his cousin comes to that house. Ain't nothing blowing that house down.
Amen. Now, Nick, we've come to the last question of the podcast. And
Damn.
I want to rewind. I know, right?
Yeah.
Disappointing. Bittersweet. We talked in this podcast about, everybody is struggling with something. And a lot of times we can't see that. And so I want you to imagine that somebody on the other end of this podcast, they've got you in their AirPods right now. They're listening to us and they're going through a tough time. And in a second, they're going to hear your voice. They're going to hear your answer to this question, but you're speaking directly to them right now.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's going through a really hard season of life and just isn't sure what to do next?
Yeah. First thing I would say is have a faith. Second thing I would say, because I know that first answer is not very, can't be absorbed by everybody.
Yeah.
But the second answer, oftentimes we look at problems right here.
Right up
and
close.
More often than not, the problems are actually out here.
And
in times of hardship and things you can't control, it's always important to look at the things you can control. And that is your effort, that is your attitude, and that is how you treat people.
Yes.
I have this written down in my notes. Even if you have to fake a smile, even if you have to fake happiness, and I'm not saying fake it till you make it. I'm saying be disciplined in the way that you treat others and be disciplined in the way in which you look at the end result. Because if you treat others well in times where you're not feeling well, that energy is still getting put out there. And this world is all about energy. So if you don't feel like smiling at that person, if you don't feel like wishing that person well, okay, do it anyway. Because you know what? Everything in life is temporary, the good times and the bad times. But you are in a great spot right now. If you're going through a tough time, you are in one of the most precious spots you could possibly be, because you want to know why? This time is going to teach you so much. And when you're out of this tough time, you're going to be twice the person you were before. And you're going to look back and say, I don't even recognize the person I was before this. But again, things take time and everybody's timing is different. And you can't ever question your timing. But to that point, don't ever lose hope in your timing, because I feel like some people don't trust timing. I feel like some people don't trust the process. And when you can envision the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Even if it's a little speck of light in this dark, pitch black tunnel, if you can envision and see that little speck and continuously, even if you walk 1/2 of an inch towards it, eventually that light's going to get brighter and brighter and brighter. And you're going to get out of that tunnel. And what's out of that tunnel is the most beautiful piece of sunlight you've ever seen in your entire life. And I just, without going off on too many tangents, 9 times out of 10, the problems that you have right now in a year aren't going to matter. And always control what you can control. Don't try and control everything, because you can't. Control how you wake up, control how you talk to yourself, and control how you talk to others. And things will work themselves out. I promise you, because there is always a solution. Always. The only time there ain't a solution is when you ain't breathing. Okay. Other than that, there is always a solution. So trust it.
The words of Haruki Murakami come to mind. And he said, and once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you've managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in.
Amen.
That's what the storm is all about.
Amen. Absolutely. I didn't even know that was a quote. That's great.
Nick, I'm going to send you probably a list of like a dozen.
You're like, you got a book over there. I need it.
Hey, when it comes out, you get one of the first copies, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Beautiful.
It's yours.
Thank you. Right? Absolutely. As long as you sign it.
Of course, man. Well, let me ask you this. So obviously school is over. You just graduated. just big picture, what does life look like just looking forward for you?
Yeah. So business wise, I want to really take this thing head on and see where I could take it. There's, right now is a busy time because there's a lot coming at me and at once. And, I think I owe it to myself to sit back and really look at it externally and weigh out my options. But I've thought about a bunch of different things. I want to start up a couple of different things, create a few different ideas, and bring them to life. But ultimately the goal is always the same. And that is to spread good in the world through laughter. And, I feel like I could do that through a couple of different avenues, but also, keep building great relationships, keep growing on the relationships I've built throughout this process, continuing to be as good of a person as I can, trying to be better than I was yesterday, and have experienced growth personally, but also, simultaneously grow the ones around me as well. That to me is something really special. And I love to be able, and I'm blessed to be able to be in a position where, when I win, others win as well. You know what I mean? So just to continue to do that, man, just see where this takes me.
I can't wait to see where life takes you. And if people want to follow along with you, where should they do that?
You can follow me on Instagram at Nicky.Cass. You can follow me on TikTok at Nicky.Cass, the number one. Not really active on Twitter. I have a YouTube, Nicky Cass. But yeah, that's the other thing. I'm going to get into the YouTube space as well. I'm going to figure that piece out. We're going to have some merch coming too. Yeah. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it right. Good cool, things take time.
Cool, man. Well, hey, you're doing some great things. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so
Joe,
much.
This was a blast, man. Thank you. Seriously. I enjoyed this.
Anytime. Me too. We'll have you back on sometime in the future. All right.
Absolutely. God bless, man.
You too, man. If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.